Okay, yeah. In the early days, before we have any cash or currency, and we want to exchange, we have some, let's say we produce some goods, and another person produce something else, and then we say, okay, I have something I want to exchange with you. I want the thing that you produce, and he wants the thing I produce, and then we do a barter. I exchange with you, you change with me. And then as more and more people produce things, all right, then we also want to exchange our goods with other people. But not necessarily if I want to change my goods with somebody, let's say I have rice and he has pineapple, but he doesn't want rice. And but I want to buy from a third person, I want apple. Okay, using my rice, I want to change apple, but the guy, he doesn't want, he wants pineapple. So, for example, then it is very complicated when we do barter because exactly what we have is not what the person wants. Okay, so you may have a 3-party or 4-party exchange. It's very complicated. And so cash was invented, right? Money was invented as a medium of exchange. Now, however, who issues the cash? Somebody, a third party, a trusted party, is responsible for issuing the cash, and the cash is pegged to a value of goods. And then so, you know that $1 can buy perhaps 5 apples, right? Then $1 can buy 2 pineapples, and $1 can buy maybe 3 sacks of rice. So that currency is used to determine the amount of goods purchased. Of course, then when cash is issued by a third party, we have to trust the third party. All right, that's whatever they produce, we can use it safely. But of course, eventually, when the cash is not backed by goods anymore, then it's become a problem, right? It becomes a problem because we do not trust whether now I'm holding this amount of cash, can I still buy the same amount of goods, or the cash has been going up and down, right? So came along something which called the blockchain, okay? And the blockchain with the token economics. So consumers are, however, using the tokens on the blockchain sometimes is also a problem, all right? Because you try to buy a cup of coffee using Bitcoin, sometimes it takes 3 hours for approval, so you've got to wait 3 hours before they say approve, you can buy the coffee. So this is a problem. So it is not a perfect solution, all right, to cash. So the problems in the blockchain technology today is that firstly, the transaction time is longer than we expect. Okay, with cash, we just pay the cash, that's it. So if you think this blockchain can replace cash, you have to solve the problem of the transaction time. It has to be same speed as when you take a cash and you buy a cup of coffee. Then, using the blockchain technology, there's also a transaction fee. We don't want to, all right? Because let's say you want to buy a cup of coffee, you have to pay this amount of money plus a transaction fee. Does not make sense. Who is collecting? The person who issue the cash takes a cut whenever you use it. Of course, it doesn't happen in the cash. So we shouldn't expect that to happen also when you're using a token on the blockchain, all right? So another thing is scalability. How many transactions you can have in 1 second? If the blockchain is only able to handle 50 transactions per second, then back to the same thing again, right? Transaction time will take a long time. So we have a blockchain that is scalable, and up to 2,000 or 1,800 in our case, transactions per second, right? And of course, because blockchain is something invented in the in the academic community and then use it commercially, there are security flaws that have to be fixed. And finally, there's also some politics and who is controlling the blockchain, right? So how then this blockchain has come into play in e-commerce? As I mentioned, cash was invented for commerce, right? For commerce. So when e-commerce come about, cash and also the other electronic payment system have come about to replace cash on the e-commerce system, right? So you use actually, for example, your credit card and all that, or maybe using PayPal. They are an alternative form of cash to do e-commerce. So when you use a blockchain, however, we expect the payment to be immediate. Okay, when you use blockchain and it is approved, the payment immediately goes to whoever the merchant is. And we have you can use the blockchain also as a form of record for loyalty points and all that. So using one medium, you can actually use it not only for payment, you can also use it for loyalty and warranties and receipt all in one, right? And the next thing is reviews. We know that there are a lot of these sites where the people give reviews, and then because of the number of people who give reviews, some of these merchants receive 1 star, 2 star. The more review, positive review, they get more star, then they can charge you more. They have a right to charge you more because of the number of stars they have. But how legitimate and how true are some of these reviews? Nobody knows, right? Because who verifies whether those reviews that you see about the hotel or the restaurant are real? But in the blockchain community, you cannot bluff, because anything you want to put on the review, the community must approve, must say, yes, it's not false, this is real. So if a few thousand people say it is true, that thing is true. So in the blockchain world, we can actually rest assured a review, positive review of a certain thing is true, right? And of course, in the blockchain world, we also can use the token to pay for content creation, and we can also make payments without having an intermediary. Now I have to be very careful when I speak, because if I say who is the intermediary, I think it's up to you to go and think who are the intermediary. I will not name names, right? So how blockchain transform retail? Firstly, using the blockchain, we can also use the blockchain to have automated customer service. And we can also have supply chain and inventory management using the same blockchain, and payments and accounting. And in the blockchain world, records are verified by the community, so you cannot bluff, right? If I say I pay for this amount of goods to this guy and I receive it, the whole community will verify that this is true, right? So, for example, I ask somebody to do something for me. For example, I'm a contractor, I want a subcontractor to do some work. Then you say, okay, please do a smart contract. Smart contract this amount of money to me, right? And at the end, I cannot, when the job is completed, the community verifies completed, the smart contract will be executed, you will get the money, and not say, oh, the main contractor run away and don't pay the subcontractor. So, in a way, in the blockchain world, a lot of this security for the smaller man, right, the smaller merchant. And of course, we can use the blockchain to give loyalty and reward points, and also advertising and consumer data. And you know, when we put in the blockchain, the community approved, the advertising cannot be false advertising. And data cannot be false data because the community approved. Alright? So, what blockchain platform should you use for your e-commerce and retail business? Firstly, in order to use blockchain and token, we have to make sure that firstly it's fast transaction time. You don't want to go to the e-commerce website, order something, you click pay and then wait for 2 days for approval. Right? You want instantaneous. And you don't have to pay a lot of transaction fee. Okay, you don't have to pay extra over and above paying the merchant, paying the provider and the whatever merchant intermediary that actually process your payment. And we want, another thing is that you want to select a payment token that is stable. If there is a lot of price fluctuation, so for example, you see an item is worth $1,000 today. Tomorrow, because of fluctuation in the price, the thing costs $900. Okay, to you are very happy, because now you pay 900 instead of 1,000. But the merchant is not too happy, all right? The merchant, instead of getting 1,000, is getting 900 because of the fluctuation of the price. So we don't want that. So buyer and seller will not like to see a lot of volatility in the price of the token. And it has to be easy to use, and of course there must be privacy and confidentiality. Oh, this is just a picture of one of our co-workers, right, in Vietnam. Yeah, so this is the company, Nexty. The workers, our development team is actually based in Hanoi, but the company is a Singaporean company, so we also have staff in Singapore. Okay, this is just a comparison with all the various tokens that in the market. You can see that Ripple and Bitcoin, and then Ethereum. The transaction time is here, and the cost for transaction, how much they charge, and scalability, how fast, how many transactions they can handle. Okay, this one is not I make it up. This is from the internet. You can get this data, right? And I don't know how familiar you are with this whole blockchain economics. How a transaction get approved. In the Bitcoin world, we have the proof of work, where the people approve a transaction through solving an equation. All right. So that solving of equation is what we call mining, Bitcoin mining. So whoever first one to solve that problem will create a hash, create a block, and the block means it's approved. The transaction is approved, and the miner get rewarded. That's why a lot of people do Bitcoin mining. All right. But it's becoming more and more difficult because more and more blocks have been created. And that is the reason why it takes so long for a transaction to be approved. Then, of course, there is the proof of stake, which is in the Ethereum world, they use the proof of stake. Now, that's one, whoever have a higher stake will have more chance to seal the next block. Then seal the next block means approve a transaction. Now, this one, imagine, the more Ethereum you have, the greater chance of you succeeding in sealing a node. So the rich get richer in this case. So it's also not very good, right? So Nexty has come up with a solution called a proof of foundation, where we actually randomly mark a node from 1 to n. So it doesn't matter. We have a community of approval. Anybody, so there will be no collusion. The system decides randomly who will be the one who is going to seal, and he's chosen to seal, and he will be given a priority to seal a block and get a transaction approved. And so, as a result, our transaction time is almost close to zero. Okay, that is all I want to say. If you are more interested to find more details, we have a booth right in front of the door. Okay, you can come and talk to us and discover more about us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Alex Siow. Please give a round of applause once again for Professor Alex Siow, Strategic Advisor of Next platform. Thank you very much, sir.